You're listening to the Aviation Show,
brought to you by DeBella Training.
For more information, contact us on www.debella.co.za now.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the Aviation Show. Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Well, we're not coming to you from 27 boxes for a change. We're doing a bit of an outside broadcast. Might hear a slight echo because we're not in our normal studio. But my guest this afternoon is Marks Mansfield. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Good afternoon, Des. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So you're quite a busy man, eh? Just tell me what you do, how you do it, and everything that you do.
Des, yes. I think I'm very fortunate. I spend 99% of my life in around aircraft or anything aviation related. I have just gone back from Botswana. I was up at the Gaborone International Air Show this past weekend photographing because that's what I do. It's an absolute passion and addiction that I've got. Mm-hmm. So I spend most of my time either hanging out of aircraft, flying aircraft, or building aircraft.
How do you hang out of aircraft?
Well, take the door off, and I sit on the floor. I take the chairs, I take the doors off, and off I go. And I hang out the aircraft, and I go photograph other aircraft, and that's how I spend most of my time.
Wow, that's crazy. When I met my wife Belinda, I used to fly skydivers, and I would often take her up in an aircraft without a door. And she still talks about it. She says, like, how can you take me without a door? And didn't have a seat either, so it's like crazy.
Oh yes, no. Look, it's a total different feeling. It's not what you expect to do when you're in an aircraft, is to have the door off. I'm not used to flying in an aircraft with the door on, so it's quite an interesting scenario. Okay,
so let's speak. Talk about your history, where this whole lot started. Is it a thing that's in your family, or how did the passion for aviation come through?
Going back plenty years, I suppose I'll give my age away here, but I was way back when in Standard 8, in those years when it was still standards. In Standard 9, I had a passion to flying. And I originally wanted to go to the Air Force. So I went through all the whole rigmarole of going through all the processes and applications, and cut a long story short, I never went through to the Air Force. So I still had a passion to fly. Mm-hmm. So when I got to my Standard 9 year, my late mom said to me, she will offer me, I've got three choices in life. I can either, when I finish matric, go on a holiday with my friends overseas for a week, or I can go study, or she'll help me get my private pilot's license. So I said to my mom, I don't want to study. I've done 12 years of this. I've had enough of it. Little did I know what I was in for. Overseas, I thought, no, I don't want to go overseas. It doesn't want to do anything. Doesn't do anything for me going overseas. I want to go do my PPL. So I was very fortunate to have got my PPL at a very young age. In fact, I got it at the age of 17.
Oh, okay, joined the club.
Yeah, so it was there the addiction started. So like a little spoiled kid, I turned around to my mom and said, I've got my private pilot's license, but do you realize, Mom, I need a thing called a night rating, an instrument rating, and a twin engine, and off I went. And she said to me, you've got two good hands. Go find a job. So in a sulky sort of manner, I kind of found myself working behind the counter at CNA, Central News Agency, in those years. But I worked from 5 in the afternoon till about 8 in the evening.
Okay.
And my job was to clean the photographic machines. I had to sit and scrub them. I wasn't allowed to talk to the day staff. I wasn't allowed to talk to customers. I had to clean machines. And that sort of started developing, no pun intended, the interest in photography.
But that's when they had those machines where you brought in the spool and you...
Correct,
That's really giving away our age.
Correct, yes. Yeah, we talk about digital and film. People look at me nowadays and say, what's film?
No, it's unbelievable.
So, the technology advancement's unbelievable. So I started doing that. Then the interest started biting, the photographic side of things. And I was thinking, okay, let's try this. So got myself a camera, a cheap little camera. In fact, people used to tease me and say, if I put a roll of film into the camera, I used to double the value of my camera, because I used to have an old Practicus screw mount camera. Mm-hmm. And so began my career as a photographer. And I kind of split. I got so tied up in the photographic industry that I got consumed by doing weddings and agriculture, architecture and product photography, and anything that anybody wanted to photograph, I used to go and do this.
And did you get your PPL there?
Yes, no, complete. I had my PPL before I wrote matric.
Okay, and what can you remember what you were paying? What did it cost you per hour?
Gee, Des, I stand corrected, but I think it was just under 200 Rand an hour.
Okay, Because when I did mine, it was 55 Rand an hour solo and 65 dual.
Oh, no, I wasn't so lucky, But bear in mind, at 200 Rand, or 200 and something Rand an hour, when I was only earning about 300 Rand an hour part-time, because I was working for CNA then, you had to kind of make a few sacrifices. And I got taught a few valuable lessons in life about saving and doing what to do and how to budget and sort of things like that. So the photographic career kind of took over, and I got very consumed in professional photography. And I always had the passion for aviation.
Okay.
So through the photography, I built up my night rating. I attempted to do my comm license and all sorts of weird and wonderful ratings as I went along. But the drive for photography was quite strong. So I spent the last 20 odd years as a professional photographer.
Wow. Okay. And the comm, why didn't that work out? What was the reason behind that?
I think there's a couple of, I think I made a few mistakes when I was younger. I kind of messed around a little bit, to be quite honest with you. And it was always a case of procrastination. I will study tomorrow.
I've got exactly the same story. My dad offered to pay for my comm, fully pay for it. And it was still in those days where they had paper A and paper B. And I wrote A and I think passed A and failed B, and I went on like that a couple of times, and eventually he said to me, forget it. Out of here, you're on your ear. Hey? And it took me 7 years to get back into the industry. So, yeah, very similar story.
Yeah, look, it's tough. My biggest passion in life is not to fly charter or commercial. My biggest dream or desire is to actually be an instructor.
Okay.
So I'm trying to work back on that and go back and do all the renewals and continue with it. And then I do through the photography, because I specialize in aviation photography.
Okay. So that opens a whole new specialized field that you weren't anticipating, obviously.
No, not at all. I think it was the love for aviation that drove me in one particular area. And it I kind of had to be a jack of all trades in the beginning to fuel or feed the passion for aviation photography, because that then started paying for me to go to air shows. It started paying for me to travel all around the country, and subsequently all around the world, starting to take photographs for clients. They used to phone me and say, please, would you travel overseas or come here and do this particular, photograph this aircraft for us to put into brochures or for our website.
Oh, cool.
So that's how it started.
And what are the differences between, like, say, wedding photography and aviation photography? Obviously, there's a huge difference.
Yeah, no, mother-in-law. Yeah.
So just tell us what the differences are.
Look, I suppose in wedding photography, it's a lot more people and portrait orientated, and a lot more drama involved.
Okay.
Aviation, the key thing in aviation, as you know, is safety.
Yes.
So the client's easy. They kind of tell me what they want. I tell them what I can give them. And between that, we go out and do the particular shoot. So whereas when I go to wedding photography, I would be briefed by the bride-to-be or the bridal party, and they would kind of look at a portfolio or tell me what they'd want, and off I'd go. So it kind of, with respect to all wedding photographers, got a bit mundane and a bit boring. And it was the same thing over and over. And aviation photography is not. It's different lighting, it's a different part of the world, it's a different aircraft every single time that I do it. It's a lot more exciting. You've got this door off, you've got this rush of wind coming through the cockpit or the fuselage, wherever I'm sitting at, or in a baggage compartment. Sometimes I find myself in baggage compartments. So, way better. And nobody talks back to me.
Okay.
That's it. It's a...
So you work obviously with a pilot. Is it always the same pilot? Is it a different pilot?
I like to fly with the pilots that are formation rated, because as a pilot, you're taught to fly away from one another. You're not taught to fly next to one another. So now I come along and say, for us to do this air-to-air shoot, I want you to be flying almost a wing's length away from me. Okay. And that's an unnatural feeling for a pilot. We kind of want to fly away from people. So I need formation-rated pilots. Because of the safety aspect involved and because of the dangers and the risks that are involved in it, I need very experienced pilots. So I normally fly with a formation-rated pilot in the aircraft, or my chase plane, as I call it, where I sit. And the aircraft that I'm photographing will have either the owner or instructor, or will have a formation-rated pilot up front as well.
Okay.
Just to keep things safe.
So this is obviously quite an expensive exercise to take these pictures, eh?
Very much so. There's, I've got to consider that there are minimum 2 aircraft involved, or 2 helicopters, sometimes 3, 4, 5 aircraft involved, depending on the formation or what the client wants, plus the pilot's costs, plus the fuel, the expense to get those aircraft up into the air all at once. So I've got a very small window of opportunity. I can't exactly get back on the ground, turn around to the client and say, I'm sorry, I forgot this, or I dropped that, or something doesn't work. So yes.
I didn't switch my camera on, or my battery's flat.
Exactly, yeah. Costs are, it's exceptionally expensive nowadays.
When you do that at a wedding, it's bad enough, but doing in aviation, when it's costing huge bucks.
Exactly.
How do you explain that? Sure. Okay, well, we're going to go to a short break. We'll be back straight after this.
Fantastic.
brandlive.co.za.
Get all of today's aviation news on one site. Visit pilotspost.com. Updated twice a week, Pilots Post is a convenient way for aviation professionals and enthusiasts to remain updated with the latest aviation technologies, products, events, and news. Aviation safety, technical information, events reports, aircraft reviews, and aviation personalities are some of our most popular articles. Now in its 5th year with more than 100,000 hits per month and almost 15,000 dedicated readers. Pilots Post is available free on the web. No registration is required. To read Pilots Post, simply go to www.pilotspost.com.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
And welcome back to the Aviation Show. We got Mark Mansfield in the studio with us. And before the break, we were talking about your career as an aviation photographer. So continue a little bit about the chase plane. How does that work? Is it always the same aircraft? Are you in a different aircraft each time? How does that whole setup work?
Okay, Des, good question. Depending on the aircraft that I'm photographing. So, for example, if I'm photographing a Cessna 182, I can quite easily photograph from another Cessna 182 or from a Cessna 172. If I'm photographing a Beech 1900, I now need to look at the speeds, the minimum speed that the 1900 can fly clean. So in other words, I don't want the landing gear down, I don't want the flaps retracted, I want it all clean or in a clean configuration. So I've got to keep in mind the minimum safety speed of the 1900, and I also need to find a chase plane that's capable of flying at a fairly high speed. So sometimes it could be, I could fly in a 172, a 182, a 210, a Baron, a Caravan, and a couple of weeks back out of an Antonov, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. With Yuri.
Not with Yuri, but with little Annie. You know little Annie?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was Yuri the Russian.
Oh, this is little Annie from the Just Love mission.
Okay, cool. What Antonov was it?
The very famous one, the Just Love mission, Antonov AN2, Mark Hill, or Smurf as everybody knows him.
All right,
He's the guy that flies around all the kids. And I did some very interesting work with him. And that shoot I actually photographed from a helicopter.
Wow, okay.
So, we kind of mix and match, but I've just got to look at the speeds and what is capable of flying at certain speeds.
And then it's obviously all done kind of in formation as well. As you said, that's why you need the formation pilots.
Most definitely.
Okay.
To give the client what they want, there's certain things that have to be done. You have to fly in certain positions. There's only a small little window for me facing backwards out of the one aircraft, not trying to get in the plane or the tailplane of my aircraft in the shot of the other aircraft. So I need somebody who's comfortable flying very close to one another, and that is safe. As I said, I can't emphasize this enough. It's about the safety.
Then how often do you find yourself upside down in precarious positions and things?
Not a lot, actually, strangely enough, because I think a lot of the work is done. There's a lot of briefings beforehand. And if it's one of the aerobatic aircraft, most definitely, then we're going into the loops and the barrel rolls, and we're doing all these weird and wonderful positions to get the great shots. But most of the work that I do is a lot of commercial work. Okay. It's all straight and level or at max 20-degree banks.
All right.
So nothing too over the top.
So when you do that, like the aerobatics type stuff, how do you handle that now, having this? I assume you've got quite a big lens, and now you've got a camera, and you pull in Gs, positive, negative.
Very interesting. Now, I shoot on a 24-105mm lens, on a Canon 24-105. And when I'm in an aerobatic aircraft, for example, the Extra or a Zlin, that camera I find gets stuck. I jam it up between my shoulder and my chin when we go up into a vertical climb.
Okay.
As you know, 1 G is 1 times my body weight, and I'm by no means a small person. I started off flying 172s. I now fly King Airs. That's where the level in terms of body weight. So, yes, when we get to 2-3 Gs, I'm starting to feel the pressure.
Right.
And, of course, that camera gets jammed in there. So it's very tricky, and it takes a lot to get it right.
But doesn't that give you motion sickness and make you air sick when you're looking through a camera, or do you just...
Des, you know what? I think I've done it, not being complacent or arrogant. I think I've done it so many times that you kind of get used to it. It's the same thing as asking an aerobatic pilot, do they not get sick when they pull 5, 6, 7 Gs? It's the same thing. You build up your tolerance. You start off with smaller little mounts. You start off with basic maneuvers. You try to focus on getting the shots, the correct shots. And then next thing you know, I'm back on the ground. It happens so quickly that it's get in and do the job.
Yeah, because why I ask is my dad took me up for a flight at the Vic Falls when I was about 15 years old. And that's where the bug really bit. And we went in a Baron with an ancient old pilot. He must have been 85 or something. And we went for this flight over the Vic Falls. And he still had his spool and his camera and everything. And he was changing it while we were flying over the Vic Falls. Man, and he was sick, eh? He was just air sick after that. So, yeah, I can imagine it must...
Look, I've had a few people who've always said to me, Mark, they'd love to come along. And then when I sit them down and say, well, do you understand that the door's off, that there's no chair, you've got a pilot and we'd remove most of the other seats. And, I can start seeing in the faces that they kind of look, hold on, this is something not quite what they signed up for. And then the very few brave that decide, no, they're quite much and they want to go do this. I've seen a few people turn blue and green in the aircraft. Very quickly, I'll tell you a very quick story. And I won't mention any names, I won't mention any aircraft type. But anyway, a particular aircraft arrived in South Africa for the very first time, and it came from Europe all the way down Africa on a tour, and it ended up in South Africa. And I saw an opportunity to go photograph this particular aircraft around Cape Town, to be told, no, they've got an official photographer on board. So I said, no problem, I'll take second seat, I'm not going to over-interfere. But anyway, on that particular day, we took off around Cape Town, and we got thrown around the skies. We were flying in a Cessna Caravan. And the poor official photographer had wrapped himself around the toilet, because it was one of his executive caravans, and he didn't look out of that aircraft for the entire shoot.
Jeez.
So I got everything that I had to do. Needless to say, it was a big joke, because the guy puked, and he really couldn't hold his own. He got not one single photograph of the shoot. So a couple of months later, it turned out that the official photographer was the son of a very senior executive who had sent him down on this tour to get the photos, and they couldn't use them. So I was very proud they used my photographs on the shoot. But yes, I've had a lot of people get sick. Not all over me, but close enough.
Yeah, I know stories of people getting sick on other people. That's not so cool. So tell us a little bit about your business. What do you do? What services you offer, that type of stuff?
I've got a photographic business called M3 Media, and it's pretty simple, Marks Mansfield Media, and it's a photographic business. Because of my extensive career in photography and, of course, all the different things that I've done in photography, I started a photographic business. I do specialize in aviation photography, be it air-to-air, be it ground-to-air, be it for corporate shoots. I also do a lot of pet photography, strangely enough. That's something else I do, which is...
Not pets in aeroplanes, just pets.
I do it both.
Okay.
I've had people want to fly with their pets, want to have their pets photographed next to the aircraft. I photograph pets or anything,
Oh, that's niche, eh?
Yeah, very much so. It's something different, that as well. So, yeah, I specialize in the aviation side of things, be it corporate, be it aviation functions or functions for aviation clients. So, basically anything photographic related, I'll go do.
Okay, and people that are interested, where can they get hold of you?
They can get hold of me on the Facebook page, M3 Media on Facebook. I suppose nowadays Facebook is the easiest and the quickest way to get hold of somebody. Or they can have a look at my website, which is m3media.myportfolio.com. And they can have a look. There's all contact options there, or through email. But it's quite a convoluted email address. It's mcubemedia@outlook.com.
Okay, so just give us that site again, then they can go to the site and get all the details
It's
there.
mcubemedia.myportfolio.com.
Okay. Well, anybody that's interested in aviation photography or getting hold of Mark for some special occasions, if you've got your cat that needs to be in your 152 next to you, then give him a ring. Right, so we're going to go to a quick story. We'll be back after this.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za. DeBella Training and Management provides South African civil aviation approved training to aircraft maintenance engineers. From engine to airframe, DeBella offers international quality courses on a wide range of aircraft. Many of our clients are from Africa and the Far East, enjoying DeBella's tranquil on-site accommodation minutes away from the airport, and also provide courses in your country depending on your training needs. DeBella's pioneering range of practical hands-on training videos augment the DeBella theoretical modules, modernizing the aviation training industry. Visit www.debella.co.za now. DeBella, you name it, we train it. Real aviation stories with DeBella.
Submit your real life story to www.debella.co.za.
And you could be featured on the Aviation Show live on brandlive.co.za or in our upcoming book.
So before the show, we were talking about what story you're going to tell us, and you said something about being arrested somewhere. So I'm going to steal your limelight.
No worries. Yes, I suppose that was one of the infamous highlights of my career.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, well, a few years back, I was asked to do some work for what was then Zambian Airlines. And, you know, we talk about a chain of events in aviation. And now you need to understand that this chain of events started when that particular client contacted me, wanting me to come do air-to-air work up in Lusaka and all over Zambia. And it became a thing via email, a conversation, how we're going to do it, a few phone calls here and a few phone calls there, and everything was agreed upon and how we were going to do this. So the night before I had to depart, I still didn't have a ticket for the flight.
Are you going to Zambia now?
I'm going to Zambia. So I'm leaving from Awa up to Zambia to go meet the client there, to go do work around all the different airports, do the air-to-air shoot on the airline, and all the brochure work that they had commissioned me to do. The morning of departure, I still didn't have my ticket, but I was reassured on the phone that it would be waiting for me at the airport. So with I'm not quite sure with intrepidation, I head off to Awa Tambo. I managed to get my ticket. I board the aircraft, and I get up to Lusaka.
Okay.
I arrive there, and of course, one of my biggest nightmares in life is watching that baggage carousel go around, and I watch everybody pick up their bag and disappear.
Is your camera in there, or have you got?
No, my camera's with me. I always carry my camera on carry-on.
Person, yeah.
And here I find myself on the last person at the airport, and there's nothing. In fact, the baggage carousel stopped and died, and everybody had disappeared. No bags.
Everyone goes home, and there's
Correct,
no
yes.
bag.
And I'm there for 5 days. So I'm in a pair of black pants. I look pretty nice and smart. Long story short, I couldn't find my contact, never arrived at the airport. Eventually, I found somebody who said, "No, Mark, you've got full clearance. Off you go. Here's a day glow. Go start photographing around the airport." So off I go, international airport, camera in hand, and I go start photographing as per the client's request. And I'm walking around, and I find myself on the far side of this apron, and I am aware that there's a military base really close by. And I start photographing, and in the distance, I see this whole convoy of blue lights.
Yeah.
Speeding around. So, I kind of stop, look around thinking, is there fire? What's happening? It's me on this apron and nothing else. A few aircraft. And eventually this convoy gets closer and closer. And I still carry on doing what I'm doing because I've got no problems. And then in a matter of minutes, I had about 30 armed guards pointing all sorts of rifles at me and pouncing on me and handcuffing me, and off I went. I got escorted to jail. On the apron. I wasn't allowed to be there, according to them. I wasn't allowed to take photographs, so I was intruding on their sovereign space. So after a couple of hours of trying to sit and explain to powers that be, the client finally arrived to sort everything out, but it was one of those cases of no luggage, being arrested,
In jail.
in jail, sorting out the problem. Then it didn't stop there. Then the accommodation at the various different places. There was no accommodation booked for me. I got given a toothbrush, and that was it. So I had to make use of these complimentary little toiletries for every place I stayed in. I had one pair of pants, one shirt for 5 days. On top of it all, the aircraft wasn't available. It had gone back to South Africa for maintenance. So I couldn't even get to do the air-to-air shoot. My return flight wasn't booked. I got the jump seat. And in between these 4 or 5 days, I must have had some sort of a stomach bug. But I came back
Wow.
with a little bit of case of diarrhea.
Of the trots.
Correct, yes. And 4 hours in the jump seat is a very uncomfortable place to be.
When you got the potty monster.
Exactly. So yes, that was one of my interesting times out there.
I hope you made some money out of it at least.
Well, I'm still waiting for them to pay me to this day.
No, that's normally how it goes. It's the
Exactly.
most difficult flights or jobs are
Exactly.
you never get paid.
Yeah.
But we've already run out of time. Can you believe it?
Jeez, that went quick.
It's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. We would love to have you back again because I know you do stuff around air news. You're involved in Pilots Post, all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure having you in studio. Thanks for joining us.
Des, thank you very much. It's been a privilege to be here, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Wonderful. So we'll be back next week at 3 o'clock. From us too. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Aviation Show on brandlive.co.za, proudly brought to you by Debella Training.
Visit www.debella.co.za now.